Welcome to The Beauty Shift, proudly sponsored by Keranique, America's #1 hair regrowth system created by women for women.
I'm Michelle Phillips.
I'm a celebrity stylist and beauty expert, a national TV personality, and self-confidence coach. And over the years, I've worked with some of the most recognized faces in the world, helping them look and feel their absolute best inside and out.
That ultimate inner outer wow. Now that's true beauty, my friends.
Hey there, welcome back to The Beauty Shift. I'm your host, Michelle Phillips, and today I am so excited you're here because I want to share something that's very, very important for us to tune into. Today we are talking about something we often feel, but we don't often trust, and that's our intuition. You know, it's that little voice inside, something right down here in your gut that says something doesn't feel right. Or it could be something that says, oh, this is something I need to do. This is the move I need to make. It's that inner compass. It's that what we call that GPS system from the deepest part of you that knows exactly who you are and where you're meant to go. But here's the thing. Like I said, so many of us have been taught to doubt it, to override that voice with logic or with people pleasing or with fear. We second guess, we seek permission, we get stuck. I know, I've learned that when I ignore my intuition, what Louise Hay, my dear Louise Hay used to say, your inner ding, I almost always regret it. Because when I lean into it, even when it's scary and I trust it, it never steers me wrong. And that's what today's episode is all about. I feel like this is such an important topic because the more we listen to our intuition and the more we trust it, you can find that you'll actually start changing your life for the better. You'll find that you can start following your dreams and your passions because you really know what those are deep down inside. And a lot of times when I'm working with clients, they say to me, Michelle, I don't even know what my dreams and passions are anymore. Well, that's because we haven't quieted our mind or our busy schedule to get clear, to listen to our intuition. So today we have an expert who is going to guide us through how we can listen to our intuition, how we can follow our intuition and really create the life that we're desiring, following the passion. And we can also learn to avoid people, situations, experiences that aren't good for us by listening to this inner ding, this gut, this intuition. So get ready, because my guest is someone who has spent her entire life helping people tap into their intuition. She's an internationally recognized intuitive advisor, best-selling author, and motivational speaker who's been featured in USA Today, the New York Times, and so much more. I'm super excited to introduce you to someone that I truly adore and have learned quite a bit from recently. Please help me in welcoming the incredible Lynn Robinson to The Beauty Shift. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us today on The Beauty Shift.
Great. I'm so glad to be here. Excited to talk to you.
Oh, I am too. And this is such an important topic, I think, especially for women, because and
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of feel like women's intuition is so strong that
Yes.
we tend to ignore it. But is it true that like women's intuition is a little bit stronger than men's, or is that a
I
myth?
think that's true, partly because intuition often comes through our emotions. You get that feeling about something. And whether cultural or not, I think that men often don't trust that intuition or that feeling. Men tend to talk about it differently, interestingly enough. They tend to talk about my gut or my instincts. And women will tend to talk about my feeling, or I felt this, or I sense this. And, when I'm working with corporate audiences or, C-level executives, it's interesting because I often tell the women to change their verbiage around it. Because if you just kind of go into a board meeting and say, I have a feeling about this, it's not as powerful as saying, my gut tells me, or my instincts say. It's different language. Yeah.
That is really Yeah, very interesting to think about, right? Just the
Right.
way that we phrase what our gut instinct is. So many people are listening right now. I'm sure that they've always heard about intuition. Many of us know what that means, but I'm sure you have a much better way of really describing what intuition is because this isn't something that researchers can see in the brain. It's not a logical thing.
My actually favorite definition is from a 15-year-old girl, and she said, intuition is when we know something, but like, where did it come from? To your point. But it's often something that we do know, that we have access to. And I think now more than ever, it's so important to pay attention to our intuition because things are changing so dramatically and dynamically in our world that we can't say we don't necessarily have the time to do a lot of research. We can't maybe logically say, well, this has always worked in the past, so it's going to work in the future. So we're really having to use our intuition much more so than ever in the future. And I think that business leaders are going to be finding that especially because we're all in the midst of change, and even most of us who are going through a change, even in our personal lives, our intuition can guide us. One of the ways that I like to tell people to, because a lot of people say I don't have intuition, like it's some special skill. I think we all have it, and I do think it's like a skill that the more you practice it, the better you get at it. But one of the very easy ways to think about it is if something feels consistently energizing, you're interested in it, it excites you, you're curious about it, that's your intuition saying, go in that direction. And conversely, if something feels sort of consistently depressing, draining, enervating, you're not interested in it, makes you feel bad, that's your intuition saying, go in a new direction or don't go there in the first place if that's a possibility. But it's a powerful tool for right now, especially because we're all in the midst of so much upheaval and change.
I know from just our time together having dinner recently, we were introduced through a mutual friend, John Holland. And it was really interesting to hear how you're coaching so many executive people around the world and, coaching intuitively. So, what is, in terms of what you do, what's an intuitive coach?
I think of myself as sort of an intuitive strategist in a way, because basically people come to me when they're in the midst of change and transition. They're trying to figure out the next steps for their business. Should I hire this person? Should I bring my business in this direction? So it's a combination of me tuning into my own intuition. And I've had this business for over 40 years, which makes me feel very old when I
No,
say that.
no,
Oh my
no.
gosh, how did that
Awesome.
happen? I'm only 30.
I'm with you.
Okay. So people, come to me when they're in the midst of change and transition. I use my intuition. I help them use theirs and kind of tap into their own inner wisdom. And partly it's also focusing on law of attraction. I mean, I really love getting people clear about what they want. Because I think when we send out a clear message about what we want, our intuition is like our inner GPS that it will start giving us direction. If we're saying, oh, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, maybe I should go in that direction, your intuition is your GPS going, okay, we'll go here. No, we'll go here. And so part of that consulting is helping people get clear about their message and getting through any blocks to just send out that clear message to the universe.
Exactly. I worked a lot with Louise Hay when I was a
Yes,
Hay House author, and she used to call it her inner ding.
I
You know,
love that.
I
You
love it. It was
reminded
like
me of
ding,
that
ding,
in your
ding.
email, and I love that.
Yeah,
And that's often what it feels like. It's like, oh, yes, that other commercial, like I could have had a V8, that's kind of what it sounds like, feels like too. It's like, oh, yes, that's right. I want to go in that direction. It's a ding, it's a aha moment. And I think we tend to discount it quite often because it sort of feels like it comes through the vehicle of our imagination, or we're making it up, or, oh, that was nothing. It was just a thought. So I tell people to really start paying attention to those inner dings. I just love that. I think that's such a great phrase.
I know for myself many years ago, before I really tapped into my own intuition, which really guides me now daily. I listen to it all the time. It took a while to learn how to practice that. But I considered myself a poll taker where I would ask everyone else their opinion before I could make a decision. And I feel a lot of times as women, we do that. We discount what's internally really coming up for us, that we know the answer to whatever it is that we're questioning. However, we don't trust it. How do we quiet that voice and learn to kind of tap into it?
Part of it is, I think, is paying attention to it. And we get it in lots of different ways. The way the enthusiasm versus draining that I said before. You might also get the aha moment. You might hear an inner voice. You might find that you're walking the dog or doing the dishes or taking a shower and you get that, oh, that's a good idea, that inner ding. You might get it as a dream. You might find yourself drawn to an article or a podcast or a conversation that kind of gives you an answer that feels right. But it is, we often do what you just said. It's like we compare, what does so and so think? What is that person doing? What does that expert say I should do? And yet we're our own inner experts. So paying attention to it, and often we do feel scared when we get intuition, because intuition often leads us out of our comfort zone. It's telling us to change our job or change where we live or to step up in a business setting, for example. And it's scary. It's uncomfortable. So I think that's why people discount their intuition a lot. I tell people to take a step in the direction that they feel like their intuition is indicating. So it might be, just a small step. See what happens. See if you get a little more courage. I think we all wish that there was a confidence fairy that could come and sprinkle her confidence dust over us. And yet, don't you find that the thing that when we do the thing we're scared to do, that's when we get the confidence? I mean, that happens for me all the time.
How do you teach people to really trust that intuition, that gut feeling that's
Yeah.
coming up, learning how to trust themselves?
When I'm faced with a decision, I try it on for size. So what that looks like is I kind of close my eyes. I try to get into a meditative place if possible. Sometimes my brain is going in a million different directions. And I try the decision on for size and a series of decisions. So it might sound like, for example, you're thinking you might want to change your job. So you might say to yourself, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. And just see how that feels. Do you get a no? Do you feel shut down? Do you feel open, peaceful? That might be an indication that you're doing it, making a good decision. Just try a series of decisions. So it could be, I'm going to wait for a month and see what happens. See how that feels. I'm going to stay here for another year and see how that feels. You just kind of try different decisions on for size, because sometimes intuition says yes, sometimes it says no, and sometimes it says not the right time.
How do you differentiate the intuition versus the logical mind that, for example, if I said I'm going to quit my job tomorrow, all of a sudden fear comes over me,
Right.
rather
Yeah.
than your gut says, get out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I know, and believe me, I've been in that place before for sure.
Yeah.
And, of course, we have to use our logical brain too. I mean, you might have kids to support, a
Right.
mortgage, roof over your head, food on the table that you need. So, yeah, I mean, you're using your logical brain as well. It's not either or.
Okay.
Um, I'll give you an example, a funny one. A few years ago, a guy came into my office and he was trying to make a decision about a job, and we'll call them company A and company B. And logically he wanted to take company A, and he said, they're giving me a promotion, it's more money, it's a good company, but maybe I should take B. So I had him do that exercise, I'll take the job with company A. And so he said, I just close my eyes and I get an X through it, like a big X, like a stop sign. And he was very logical, like, so why would I get that? As well, intuition often gives you information through images, symbolic pictures. And so it sounds like you got one. And then I said, well, just try company B on for size. And he kind of closed his eyes again. He goes, I feel peaceful. And then he opened his eyes and he goes, but I should take the job with company A. It's again reiterating more money, better, promotion, etc. So I said, look, we may not make the decision today, but tell me, email me, text me, whatever, in a few months and let me know what happens. Well, he texted me about 6 months later. And he said, you're not going to believe this. He said, I decided for some reasons to go with company B. Company A just went bankrupt. And that's what's so frustrating sometimes about intuition. It doesn't say, hello, company A is going bankrupt, do not take that job. But it just gives you that felt sense, or that symbolic picture in his case, that that's not the right answer. And sometimes you don't know why you're getting some information. That, even me, that's frustrating sometimes. But
Yeah.
it's fascinating that some part of you knows what, the answer.
And is
Um,
that somehow tied to psychic abilities that we have?
Yeah, I think of intuition. There's a couple ways to think about intuition. One is that it's based on some knowledge that you have that may be subconscious. Maybe he read about the company but didn't consciously remember it, or maybe he had read something about the trends in that industry and not consciously remembered it. The other way of thinking about intuition, which I think is equally valid, is divine intuition. That it's guidance from our higher self, from God, from a higher presence, from higher intelligence, however we choose to see that. And that was one of my books, Divine Intuition. So I'm a big believer in divine intuition. I think we're all hardwired with it, and I think especially in an American culture, we're really trained not to listen to it. We're much more value on logic and facts, but they coexist. It's not one without the other. So if your intuition is saying time to leave the job, start using your logical brain to make a plan for it. Start going on interviews, send out do informational interviews, send out your resume, talk to your friends. So you're honoring your intuition. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave your job yesterday.
I know you're working with a lot of executives, and I know that you've helped them intuitively bring people onto their team,
Hmm.
working to people that they want to work with to help guide them intuitively
Yeah,
choose candidates,
right.
members to be like future team members. How do you
Yeah.
guide them there?
I have a technique that I do, and what it is, and I either do it for my client who's thinking about bringing someone on, or I help them do it. And they basically, I do it on a pad of paper and a pen. You can certainly do it with fingers on the keyboard, and you bring the person's name to mind, and you just ask a series of questions. I like asking open-ended questions so that it's not a yes or no answer, because that doesn't give you a lot of information. So it could be, please give me information about Mary, just as a general. You can make a statement rather than a question. Um, how will Mary work with a team? What are Mary's strengths and weaknesses? So you go through a whole checklist of things that you can ask your intuition. You can make them up yourself. But I just brainstorm the answers. You're going to feel like you're making it up. I mean, I do this for a living. I feel like I'm making it up. But often when I'm actually given factual feedback, it's quite amazing how your intuition can come up with that information. And
Yeah.
it doesn't need a lot of training. Again, we all have that intuition, but we often ask the wrong questions like, why am I broke? Why can't I find a job? What's wrong with me in relationships? It's like almost like they're downer questions or disempowering questions. So I like to ask empowering ones, and
Mm.
I think that those, what could I do to make more money? How could I improve my relationship? What could I do to be more happily employed? And, again, I like writing them down because it gives me, then I can look back and say, oh, that's what my intuition said. That turned out to be helpful. That's how I got the information. But often I find that that information just pops in my mind, or I get a message about it in some way throughout the next day or so. It's a funny topic. I mean, I get that it's a real woo woo one. I mean, it was very challenging for me to start working with businesses, and I kind of had to go through my own self-talk about it, because I like, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm going to show up with a crystal ball, or have big bangly jewelry or something. I don't know what the epitome of a psychic is here, but I had to go through my own self-talk about it, to be empowering, for myself. But look, I know I've got a skill. I know this is something that other people need to learn, and it's going to be so important in this next decade.
I love that more of this work is becoming more mainstream, because my work in the beauty industry shifted 15 years ago to be more about inner empowerment and helping women really tap into who they are and then rock who they are, instead of here, let me teach you how to do makeup and skin and all. I'll do that too. But back then, everyone, when I was on TV and radio and doing all kinds of stuff, people like, yeah, that's okay, but you just give us your beauty tips, outer beauty tips? And now everyone's like starting to understand.
An inside job,
Yeah,
yes.
I really
Yeah.
feel like this inner work is,
Mhm.
thankfully people are really starting to appreciate it and want to incorporate it into their lives, because they're also seeing how other people, that thought leaders who have been out there
Yeah.
talking about experiences and how they're shifting. So it's
Yeah.
exciting, and it's kudos to you for really
Yeah.
being brave and putting this work forward
Oh,
40 years
thanks.
ago, because
Yeah.
that's not easy. But how do we quiet our minds to listen to that intuition, to get
Yeah.
that hit to go for it anyway, despite
Mhm.
what other people think or despite our own self-doubt?
Yes, yeah. It's tricky. I don't know that I've got an easy answer to that other than meditation. And to me, meditation is like herding cats. I mean, I'm up there with the worst of them going, okay, focus on your breathing. On my grocery list. Focus on your breathing. Oh God, did I change the cat litter? I mean, oh my gosh, it's awful. But I do find that even if I just give myself permission to do it for 5 minutes, or do it for a minute or two throughout the day, just kind of calming myself, just, kind of centering myself. That's been the thing that's worked the best for me. I have never been a meditator that I can do it easily for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. Oh, God forbid, I couldn't do it for an hour. I'm a fit, but
Especially if you have a busy schedule or kids or you're,
yeah, yeah.
whatever you're,
Oh,
yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
even just, taking little intuition breaks, just, if you're in a busy office, go out for a walk in the park, go sit, and find an empty office space and go take a few deep breaths, sit at your desk and just close your eyes for a moment. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. Just to say, and just simply saying, what does my intuition say about that? I mean, that's a great way of building muscles, your intuition muscle. It's kind of like having your free weights, you just go, okay, I'm going to do my intuition training today. What is my intuition saying I should do right now?
Oh, I love that, to think that way about it. And
Yeah.
you're right. I tend to go for a walk or if I exercise, and that's when I start clearing my mind, and that's when I get the hits. Not
Yeah.
even looking for them, I'll get the intuitive hits on,
Yeah.
oh, like
I-
ideas that come to me or
right.
thoughts,
Exactly.
things, and I'll just do a quick, plug is that I actually created like 5 to 10 minute meditations for women
Oh,
and have
perfect.
them on my website because I have such a struggle meditating. But if
Hmm.
I have someone that guides me for five
Yes.
to 10 minutes, then it
Me
just helps me.
Right.
So
I
yeah,
know. And I find listening to music or like kind of
yeah,
new agey or classical music kind of calms me down. But I think that's so great. Just doing it in little chunks.
right.
It's interesting. In the one of the books I wrote was called Put Your Intuition to Work. And I interviewed a lot of different executives and companies that were trusting their intuition. Often it was kind of creative advertising agencies, PR, marketing companies that were doing it. But a number of companies um, had napariums or little areas where you could go take a nap. I thought that was fascinating. And also, there was a number of inventors and former presidents that would take naps in order to get information, intuitive information, clear their mind. They would program before they kind of went and took the nap, like, I need information about this, or what should I do about this? And would often wake up with an answer. So I thought that was pretty fascinating.
That is
Yeah.
fascinating and really smart too, because I think a lot of us just go, 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 and we don't stop. And
Right.
when we do stop, it's just like, we're exhausted and we
Yeah.
don't allow ourselves those mini breaks um,
Yeah.
to just have that space. And I'm finding for myself, because I really do work a lot with my intuition now,
Hmm.
through the years, is that if I don't allow myself breathing room throughout the day,
Right.
it's almost like, now that I say that, no pun intended, but I feel like almost like I can't breathe. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
it's too much. And how can
Right.
I even think or be creative or get clear about what the next steps are in anything,
Yeah.
whether that
Right.
be, personal or professional? I just want to take a quick moment to thank our amazing sponsor, Keranique, the go-to brand for women's hair growth solutions. If you're looking for healthier, thicker, more beautiful hair, no matter what hair concerns you have, Keranique has got you covered. Their products are clinically proven and dermatologist recommended, offering a complete hair care system, including treatments, shampoos, conditioners, and supplements to help you achieve stronger, fuller looking hair from the inside out. So whether you're starting your hair regrowth journey or maintaining gorgeous, healthy locks, Keranique has a solution for you. And as a Beauty Shift listener, you get 25% off site-wide. All you have to do is head over to store.keranique.com and use the code BeautyShift25 at checkout. Thanks again, Keranique, for supporting the Beauty Shift and helping women everywhere feel confident and beautiful. So now let's get back to the show. I also wanted to ask you about that quick hit.
Hmm.
I've had situations where my husband and I, well, recently, it was a few months ago, we walked into a restaurant that I asked to go to. I was like, let's go here tonight. Just, last minute,
Mm.
go over there and grab a bite to eat. We walked in and we normally sit in the little bar area because it's just quick and fast to get in and out. And I was like, I don't want to be here.
Yep.
Something weird came over me and I was like,
Hmm.
this doesn't feel right. I don't know why, but I've changed
Yep.
my mind. My husband's
Yeah.
like, what? You
What?
just said you wanted to come here? Ugh, what now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I
Right.
was like, I don't know what it is, but I've gotten strong enough with myself and confident enough in myself to trust this because over and over again, if I don't say something or listen to it, something weird happens or I wish I said something. And so now I just say it. And it turned out the next day, friends of ours said, oh, we were there. We went up to that restaurant and a fight broke out in the bar. The
Oh
police
my
were
gosh.
called. It was crazy.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like I
Wow.
actually got this hit. Now that's just like a really good example, but I have this
Yes.
kind of stuff happen all the time where it's not
And
so
sometimes you
drastic.
don't know. You don't find out why you got that hit, which is frustrating. It's like a company A, company B thing. The guy finally found out, but initially, why did I not want to take that job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or why
So
did
good for
I
you
meet
for doing
someone?
it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Or you meet
Yeah.
someone that you've never
Right.
met before and you just feel, I don't know,
There's something. Yeah.
something wrong or off, but
Yeah.
they live in my community, so maybe we need to be friends because we're supposed to
Right.
be friends. And then it
Yep.
turns out, boy, I should have stayed away from that person. you know,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
things like so when you get that quick hit, which is not the kind that you meditate on and really
Hmm.
think about,
Good. Good
how do
question.
you help people kind of trust
I
that?
would say start trusting it. And as we said, sometimes you'll get the reason that you got that hit, and sometimes you don't, which may be a little bit frustrating. But it's interesting. There was a study done. It wasn't one of mine, but there was a. They were. I think the woman was an intuition coach also, and was training a group of HR people, and she had pictures up on a wall, and the instruction was just to give information about what did you get intuitively about each person. And
Mm,
there was one picture of a guy who was kind of clean cut, all American kind of looking guy. And to a person, I think it was almost like almost everybody in the room had an uncomfortable feeling about him. Couldn't really quite put their finger on it. Some people had a little more detail than others. It turned out that he'd been convicted of murder. And so it wasn't, whoa, that guy's convicted of murder. It didn't give you that direct information, but there was something, I don't feel right about this person, or, there's something off there. And so, the tricky part is recognizing your own preconceptions, like, oh, I don't like any people with black hair or people who wear a lot of mascara or something. So you have to kind of watch your own prejudices. I think that's very important, especially if you're in HR. But just to pay attention to what am I getting here? Why am I is there a reason I'm feeling uncomfortable?
yeah.
Really important to trust it.
It is, and it is challenging to speak
Yes.
up at times because you don't want to seem like you're a crazy lady, high maintenance or whatever.
Right. And I
My
think that's
husband's
what
like,
a lot of
"Fuck the
women are
world." Yeah.
experiencing. Isn't it? Oh gosh, we can get on a little soapbox about this
Oh,
one,
no.
but isn't
Yeah.
it frustrating though if a man said it, I feel good about this place, we'd probably go, oh, okay.
Oh,
But
yeah.
a woman saying it is going, what's wrong with you? Are you being sensitive? There you go again.
Yeah, but that
Well,
it's
let's stay
so
in our
true.
power.
Yes. It's not fair, but it is
No.
the language we use, which I love
Yes.
that you brought that up in the beginning of this show is, really just rephrasing this instead of saying, "I have a feeling," just saying,
Right.
"Okay, my intuition or my gut is telling me that something's not right here,
Yeah.
and, I
Yep.
know I wanted to come here, but I just don't feel right
Oh,
about
well,
it."
I'm
So
sure Rick trusts you now about these kinds of things. Who wants to be in the middle of a bar fight, for goodness sake?
exactly. He does most of the time, but
Good.
sometimes he's just like, "Oh, what now?"
I know.
Because I do get that.
Yep.
I actually, have found, um, just it's just a practice of really listening to myself and learning how to start trusting myself more and more, and the more
Mhm.
you do that, for me, the more I'm getting a lot of hits intuitively,
Right.
and that's what's really guiding me on a
Yeah.
daily basis, and sometimes I'll get intuitive hits and I really can't do much about it. You're
Mhm.
in a work situation, yeah, you can't just avoid every single situation
Right.
or
Right.
person, but yeah, and I've learned that if I don't listen to it, the repercussions.
Are huge. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so how often do you see that? happen?
Yeah, a lot. And, sometimes they're subtle, sometimes they're not. And I think that's often challenging for me in the work that I do is it's not so much a psychic thing, really. It's more like, I mean, I've had people say, oh, this job is killing me. And I've just wanted to get out for a year, and it's just getting worse and, kind of on and on. And often what I find is, their intuition is saying loud and clear, it's time to get out. And if you don't pay attention to it, there are repercussions. You might get sick, you might get in an accident, you might get laid off, you might have, I mean, I had one guy who was the top of his field in an insurance company, lots of awards and everything. And he was saying the same things I was just saying, I got to get out of here. But the golden handcuffs were pretty strong. And he ended up having a huge lawsuit that ended his career.
Wow.
And, I, I just think intuition gives you a little whisper, it's time to leave. If
Mhm.
you don't listen, it ramps it up. It starts yelling in some way. You got to get out of here. Or you start having health issues. I think
Right.
that's the repercussions. I think that happen a lot.
Yeah, and we see that a lot. For example, my daughter works very hard and she puts a lot of pressure on herself and she gets sick,
Yep.
often. And I believe that it's because she's not listening to herself. She'll
Right.
say to me, I need to slow down. I need to cut back my hours. She owns her own business. But she doesn't. And then
Hmm.
she, texts me and says, Mom, I'm so sick. She's
Oh.
29.
Yep.
And that's also not listening to your
Right.
intuition, correct?
Yeah.
Or by not
Yeah.
listening to your body?
Right. It's interesting. There's a lot of seminars and things out there that I'm hearing about that are called driven women, and as if it's sort of a badge of honor that we're driven. I mean, I don't know that there's necessarily, it's not like it's not about not working hard. I mean, we've both done that. A lot of us, I'm sure, who are the listeners are, want to work hard. We want to get ahead. We want to be top of our field. But I find that when I get into that, I'm pushing, I'm efforting, I'm having, and I get overwhelmed. That's the point at which I go, Lynn, what is it that you want? Send out a clear message. This is the outcome I want, and really pay attention, because I think that intuition, well, I'm maybe going to say it more strongly, intuition will give you the guidance to get there much easier than if you're like pushing and struggling and overwhelmed. And boy, I've had to learn that. It's been tough because I think our culture rewards that driven, that work hard, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I mean, crazy busy. I mean, that's our word for it, and it's like a badge of honor. And I am not accepting that anymore. I think that life can flow with ease and grace, and we can just be as accomplished as if we're driven
Yeah.
better, because it happens with ease and grace. And I think that's where intuition comes in. A lot of it too, as I said earlier, is paying attention to what you want. Sometimes we just get into the muck and mire of how to get somewhere, but we're not really clear where we want to go. So I know when I go into a business meeting or have a conversation with a client, what's the outcome I want? Or um, I recently sold my house, and I was like, oh my God, the real estate market. I was getting all, worked up about it, and go, Lynn, what do you want? I want this to sell with ease and grace. I want both of us, all of us combined, to be happy with what we get, the buyer and me, the seller. And, I mean, I can't prove that my intention for that made it happen, but that's what happened. I think that ease and grace is one of my favorite affirmations. May all of this unfold with ease and grace.
I just wrote that down. Thank you for this. I needed that today
Yes.
because I am the opposite of trying to be crazy busy, but sometimes it just pops up.
Yeah.
And we just got back, from taking a little time off, my
That's
husband
right.
and
Yeah,
I.
you went on a
And next thing you
cruise.
know,
Yep.
ease and grace is not
Oh,
in the
yeah.
picture
Not
because
in the
everybody
picture.
wants to be,
Yes. Yep.
wants me back to be doing a million things. And I love what you share here though, because this is something that you can easily get off. I call it the train track. And
Yep.
to get back on is, how do I want to do this rather than
Right.
what do I want to do? Because I
Right.
just told my husband today, it's non-negotiable. For me, I have to have my daily exercise, my me time, my time for
Hmm.
me to have my self-care.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I get burnt out. I don't feel good. I don't perform
Yeah.
well, whether it be podcasting or TV or helping,
Yeah.
working with my clients. And I think as women, we tend to feel like we've got to take it all on. We've got this. We're strong, but we take care of everybody else but ourselves first,
Right.
whether that be our kids, our spouses, our friends, family,
Hmm.
people we work with, and so that's again not listening to your intuition, right?
Yeah. And one of the things that keeps striking me in using intuition is I think that when we're clear the outcome we want, and we don't have to try to figure out exactly how we're going to get there,
Yeah.
the universe has a bigger dream for us than we have for ourselves. And
Mm.
I'll just tell you, I mean, my business started in the weirdest way because I was the operations manager of a software company in Boston for a few years, and it was one of those, I don't want to be here anymore. This is not lighting me up. And I went to a career counselor and just tried to figure out what is it that I want to do. And I knew that I like counseling, coaching, I love spirituality, intuition. And so we devised this idea of, okay, well, do intuitive consultations. I mean, I didn't know, how do you get there? How do you market it? What do you do? I go out there with a little crystal ball and say, let me give you a reading. I didn't know. It was so frustrating because I knew what I wanted, but not how to get there. And she was probably one of those early law of attraction practitioners. And so she gave me this technique of just, writing down what I wanted, visualizing it, and every day listening to my intuition and taking an action step. I mean, it's pretty simple. So I visualized, I imagined a beautiful office. I imagined my calendar filled with clients. I imagined my appointment book, filled up, and a beautiful waiting room and a beautiful office, all of those things. And nothing really happened for, a few months. And then unfortunately, a friend of mine died. And I walked into the funeral home. There were several hundred people there. I was intending to sit next to one of a few friends that I knew were going to be there. And my attention got drawn to this woman that was, sitting next, I was in the aisle, and I heard this voice say, please sit there. And so I go, okay, assigned seating at a funeral, that's kind of weird. And I turned around to acknowledge who'd said that to me. There was nobody there. So that kind of freaked me out, but I'm thinking, what was that? So I sat next to this woman that I didn't know. And the short version of the story is at the end of the funeral service, she and I started chatting, and she said, what do you do for a living? And if you're ever one of those times where your brain doesn't engage with your mouth. And so I ended up saying, oh, wanted to start this intuitive consulting business, and I blah, 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 and I was like, blah, 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 blah. And she's, oh my God, that's really fascinating. Can I have a session with you? And so honestly, talk about fear. I had really not done this beyond a few friends and friends of friends. So I'm finding myself saying, yes, sure, of course, and freaking out. Um, and it turned out that she was a writer for the Boston Globe newspaper. She wrote an article about me, and I got over 500 clients within the next few months. So I think
Mhm.
I'm one of the few people whose business started at a funeral, for one thing. but the other part of it was, I never would have been able to figure that out as a way to start my business if you paid me millions of dollars. But the
Right.
universe had an amazing path for that to open up. And so I do think that technique of imagining, writing down what you want, because I think writing it down is powerful, and then spending a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes every day, just visualizing it, imagining it as if it's already happened. And then every day just saying, what can I do today to move in this direction? Is there a class? Is there a conversation? Is there a blog that I can write? And what can I do to put the energy out there?
Have you ever gone shopping for a car? And let's just pretend it's a
Yeah.
VW, and you're in the VW dealership, and you're in the parking lot, and there's this
Yeah.
bright lime green VW, and you're like, oh my word, that color. Like, I've never seen that before.
Right.
You leave that dealership, you see that car
See it
everywhere.
everywhere. Yep.
And
You
so
got it.
I love what you're sharing, because when you really write down what it is that you dream of, that your heart desires, and you start visualizing it and feeling it, it's
Yeah.
almost like that lime green VW.
Yep.
Situations, people,
Yes.
experiences, opportunities start showing up that
It
you would have
does.
never probably noticed,
Right.
and miracles occur.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
pretty
exciting.
fascinating because the thing that I hear most frequently is people can sometimes describe it what they want, but then they just say, "Oh, but I don't have the confidence, or I don't have the education, or I don't, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm whatever." We put all these blocks in our path. But if you can say yes, I mean, I think that that's part of the way that intuition speaks to us. If
Yeah.
it's something we're passionate about that we want to do, I feel that God, your higher self, infinite intelligence put it there for you to do. And
Right.
then, who are you to talk yourself out of it?
Right.
It's your power, it's your superpower. And
Oh,
if it's in there, I just feel like the universe can find a way to help you make it happen, even if it's showing up at a friend's funeral and sitting next to a Boston Globe newspaper reporter.
that's what
It's
really the
funnily
beauty
enough,
of
I
it.
used to think, well, if only I won the lottery, then I could start the business.
Oh,
But
I
in
know.
a weird way, she offered me the lottery number. I mean, 40 years ago, that's when I was sitting in that funeral home.
No, you have
Yeah.
to tell this story because you told it at dinner the night that we had dinner together, and it was fantastic because I think my husband asked you, "Hey, Lynn, so does intuition, like, help you win the lottery? How can we use that?" And
Oh
so
gosh,
you
do I have
told
to
a really
tell this
fun
story? Oh my
story.
goodness, jeez. Yes, I know that's probably the most, frequent question that I get asked. Well, if you're so psychic, how come you don't have the lottery? So I did come up with a lottery number. It was right after I'd gotten married. I had never played the lottery before, but I woke up with what is it now? I can't even remember, six numbers I think in my head, and I couldn't go back to sleep. I couldn't get the number out of my head. My husband's snoring beside me, and I said, "Honey," I'm nudging him. I said, "I think I have the lottery number." And I have never seen that man move so fast before or since. It's like, "Oh my God, I married a psychic and we've got the lottery number." So he wrote it down. It's a Wednesday morning. And I so I was excited, I'd come up with a lottery number, and he was going to play it on the way to work. So a Friday morning rolls around, we're reading the paper, having coffee in the morning. I said, "Oh, let's see if my number came in. And you have still the piece of paper you wrote it down on?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." And so we look in the Boston Globe, and he looks, he goes, "Oh my God." He's looking at paper and newspaper and looking at the piece of paper and say, "The lottery number came in. It's for $5.2 million." And we both totally freaked out. And then he goes, "I forgot to play it."
Jeez.
$5.2 million, Michelle. And I stayed married to him. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
That would have been grounds for the divorce right
If
there
that's
with
not a
most
reason
people.
to listen to your intuition, I don't know what else.
Oh
I mean,
my
that's
gosh.
oh
But
my
it
word.
was a painful lesson though, because I mean, of course I was really mad at him, for not playing it. But I also realized it was my intuition. I got the number. I needed to take action on it. So that was my way, at least, of letting him off the hook. In order to stay married.
Yeah. But isn't that the truth? We're all responsible for
We
ourselves,
are,
right?
and we're
So we can't
responsible
blame
for
anything
acting
else.
on our own intuition. Absolutely.
That's
I took
right.
responsibility. Yes.
Oh my goodness. We could go on
I
forever.
know
We're gonna
we
have to
could.
continue this discussion another time and do another show, a part two soon.
Yes.
But I'm sure so many of our viewers and listeners would love to know how they can get in touch with you, grab one of your books. I'm sure you have programs, you do readings, all
Yes.
kinds of things, correct?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Most of the information's at my website, which is lynnrobinson.com, and my first name is Lynn with no E. And the most recent books are Divine Intuition, which is the more spiritual of the books, and then the one I most recently wrote was called Put Your Intuition to Work. So that's more of a business oriented. And I'm really fond of techniques because I find a lot of us say, trust your intuition. And there's not a lot of books out there about how to do it. So in both of those books, there's a lot of good techniques to use. So absolutely. But I'd love to do intuitive sessions. I still love doing that. So you can book them on my website.
I know, and I can attest to your work because you worked with my husband last summer,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you were so helpful to him
Oh,
and
good.
spot on, by
Thanks.
the way.
Oh, good.
So thank you so much for that,
Yeah.
and thank
Oh,
you for
great.
your time today. And I am going to ease and grace.
Ease
We're
and
going
grace.
to
That's our new motto.
ease
Yes.
and grace is my new motto. Thank you. I love
Oh,
that.
you're
I
welcome.
needed
And you
this
know that we
today.
have matching nail polish. Do you realize that?
I know.
We must have trusted our intuition.
That's right. Oh my gosh. See, I've got goosebumps. That
Oh,
is, I
I
know.
just put
It's
that on yesterday.
oh my God, 2 days ago.
Oh,
I
there you
love
go.
it.
See, we were in tune. That's funny.
Thank you so much,
All right, take
Lynn. It's been
care.
such an honor to have you
Okay.
here today.
Okay. Thanks,
Take care.
Michelle. Bye.
Wasn't that an incredible conversation? Oh my goodness. My new mantra with ease and grace. Because it's really about how we choose to go through life. And if we follow our intuition, it can really lead us down that path of discovering and uncovering what our deepest desires are, what our dreams and our passions are, and allowing our intuition to guide us in the direction that we need to go so that we can create the lives that we want. And leaning in and listening to what's not good for us. Great stuff. I would love to hear from you what you got from this conversation. Are you listening to your intuition? Are you going to start listening to your intuition? I'm so jazzed up about this conversation. I hope you are too. And if you find that there's somebody that you know that would really benefit from this conversation today, I hope you will share this episode with them. And I truly want to say to you that I am so grateful that you've taken the time out of your busy day to tune in to the Beauty Shift, because without you, this wouldn't happen. I'm also inviting you to go to my website, michellephillips.com, to download my beauty meditations. I've got a free one out there for you guys to download. I've got all kinds of resources when it comes to mindset, health, and wellness, as well as outer beauty. So please take advantage, michellephillips.com. Again, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have an absolutely beautiful day. Until next time, take care.
I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Keranique, America's #1 hair regrowth system created by women for women. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please feel free to share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to receive my free beauty and wellness gifts, just go to my website, michellephillips.com. I also invite you to join my social media community on Facebook and Instagram, Michelle Phillips Beauty.